For our second speaker this evening, we are pleased to welcome Kelli Butler. Kelli is a classically trained coloratura soprano. I'm told that coloratura refers to the texture of a singer's voice, and coloratura sopranos are especially capable of decorating their vocal melodies with embellishments and flourishes. You can kind of think of it like meta magic options, but for singing. In her illustrious and burgeoning career, Kelli has sung such arduous arias as The Magic Flute from Mozart's Die Zauberflute and O mio babbino caro from Puccini's La Bohème. For fans of the Witcher video game series, you can find a beautiful and haunting rendition of Lullaby of Woe from Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt on her website, kellibutler.com. along with a number of less nerdy but equally awesome classical operatic recordings. With dedication to her craft as a singer, Kelli naturally gravitates toward the bard class in Dungeons & Dragons and recently collaborated with game designer and friend Hannah Rose to create a homebrewed bardic college for both 5th edition and 3.5. Entitled The College of the Opera, it achieved bestseller status on the DM's Guild within 24 hours of release. For those interested in what is one of the most sociable, versatile, and just plain delightful classes, at 14th level, this class archetype allows the singer to captivate listeners' very souls. Now, dear listeners, I'm certain you will find yourselves, if not your very souls, captivated by our special guest, Miss Kelli Butler.
Hello, I'm just gonna get right into this, okay? There's a moment at the end of Terry Pratchett's wonderful book, Witches Abroad, in which Granny Weatherwax, the powerful witch, is faced with a million reflections of herself in an endless hall of mirrors. She asks Death, "Where am I?" He responds that she's inside the mirror. "When can I get out?" "When you find the one that is real." After a moment, she points to herself and says, "This one." A million reflections and possibilities, a million choices to make, and a million chances to be. Hi, I'm Kelli. I'm mostly known as the Opera Geek. I'm going to tell you how tabletop games let us see all our reflections and be better equipped to find the one that is real. That probably sounds fairly esoteric. I promise you it isn't. I would take a wager that many of us here, if not all of us, have experienced moments in our lives where we wished we could be someone else. Anyone else. As long as that person wasn't ourselves. I certainly do, and I'm using the present tense very much on purpose. It's an ongoing process. However, we all have a special way to do just that. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit here. I'm going to assume, as I usually do, that absolutely no one here knows who I am except Stephanie and Corey, and they're not allowed to say anything. I'm a professional opera singer, tabletop RPG player, and content creator. I've worked in games for various channels and companies like our Talsorian Games, Wizards of the Coast, Sirenscape, and Roll20, among others, as well as the whole College of the Opera subclass, which has already been explained, so I can cut this entire paragraph. I am also the product of many years of being a complete social outcast, including school bullying and never quite fitting in. Sound familiar? I bet it does to many of you. Many may assume, since I've been in sponsored games and get paid occasionally to play said games, that I've been playing for a long time. No. I first became familiar with D&D when I was a kid. Not playing it, but reading stories about it. My first introduction actually was the Cleric Quintet. I'm hoping some of you have read this. I would have loved to play the game. However, I wasn't even cool enough for the D&D kids at school. So instead, I lost myself in stories. A million movies played out in my head as I read about rings and dragons, gods and demons, and cursed crystals whose name sounds suspiciously like a cinnamon roll shop in the airport, and I know I'm not the only one that hears that when I read it. In fact, my first game ever was in 2006, after I got married. My husband was the DM. Our best friends, who were all experienced D&D players, played with us. I lost my place. Okay, there we are. And I played a paladin who within 1 hour had managed to fall from her god's favor, I swear I was going to donate all that money and jewelry to the temple, and I'm almost certain they were all bandits before I killed them. I played a few home games, always worried I'd mess up. So when I was first asked to begin streaming, I was terrified. I was so afraid to make a mistake in front of my friends who actually liked me. And now someone thought I should do this for an entire interweb of strangers. I turned down the request for months until I finally gave in. I made a bard because play to your strengths. And that one shot turned into my first streamed campaign, which was set in Greyhawk. I made mistakes. A lot of mistakes. And slowly, with the more games I played in and the more people I played with, I began to realize that that was actually okay. Equally as slowly, I began to step out of the comfort zone of being that girl who sings and plays the bard and started to explore other classes. I tried new alignments, and what I began to realize was that the characters I was creating, much like the books I used to read, were giving me the opportunity to be someone I wasn't. In some cases, it gave me the opportunity to be someone I wished I was. In others, it was pretty cathartic to be somebody I'd never want to be in real life. That is a gift that we all get as lovers of fantasy, science fiction, and RPGs. We get to explore a million might-have-beens safely at a table, where a nat one only gets you chucked into metaphorical lava instead of changing your life. You might be wondering how all of this talk ties into streaming a game versus playing it at home. Well, when you stream a game, especially in a higher visibility game, for instance, Let's Get Wildmount, that I play in on Saturdays, routinely gets between 400 to 800 people watching it live and additional after the fact. It isn't just your close friends you're having fun with. You're entertaining an unseen audience, sometimes in the hundreds, sometimes in the thousands. Sometimes you may not even know your castmates ahead of session 0. It's one thing to push your boundaries with close friends, people who know you. It is another entirely to learn the cautious walk between public gameplay while enforcing your boundaries and still using the table to explore. You might not feel as at ease, and that can sometimes come across in the game. Thankfully, most games have embraced a session 0. You can ask me what that is after the fact if you don't know what it is, either over Zoom chat or via questionnaire. You can indicate things you're okay with experiencing at the table, and you can redline things you absolutely aren't. In this way, you can begin to find the trust needed to lean in and explore yourself and the characters you can create, even at a new and public table. After all, it's one thing to face down ourselves in a mirror, right? Even when we see a reflection we don't like, or even one that we absolutely hate, we can just turn away. When you're playing publicly in a stream, your castmates are your mirror, and the whole audience can see your reflection. In turn, you're the same for your castmates. It can be terrifying, but it can also be wonderful. Sometimes it can lead to more caution. Certainly makes you more aware of some things, but very often it can help you step over a hurdle in your real life, or kick down a wall you'd maybe given up even being able to climb. And one of the very best things, you learn that when you can't kick that wall down yourself, you have help. Because you're not alone in telling your story anymore. And every dice roll opens a new door for an exploration. Maybe. We all know how well most adventuring parties deal with doors. In the end, what you bring to the table may hold up a metaphorical mirror and show you parts of yourself you didn't know you wanted to explore. It may sometimes show you things you don't want to explore or even like about yourself. That's okay too. The important thing to know is that when you walk away from that table, you will know which one is real. Maybe more than you did when you sat down. And in my mind, that can only be called a critical success, which I am notorious for never having. I hope you all enjoyed my rambling speech, and as I am me, I'm going to end with another Discworld quote, this time from Hogfather. All right, said Susan, I'm not stupid. You're saying humans need fantasies to make life bearable. Death responds, really? As if it was some kind of pill? No. Humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. So with that, let us all raise a glass and make a toast to being falling angels.